people in our education community and developing their sense of efficacy. When we support the creation and sharing of high-quality resources, our students will benefit from the collective expertise of dedicated educators who are learning from each other, working collaboratively, and sharing their best ideas. As a result, we elevate the teaching profession and improve our ability to meet the needs of all learners by providing access to resources that are relevant, up-to-date, and openly shareable. So next, we'll take a look at the Oregon Open Learning Hub and how to navigate the hub. Before we head over to the hub, we want to talk just a little bit about the structure. So the Oregon Open Learning Hub lives within the OER Commons. OER Commons is a digital resource repository, a space for educator collaboration, and a movement to promote free and open, to promote sharing free and open educational resources. The OER Commons hosts hubs or virtual locations to store, curate, and collaborate on open educational resources. There are several states that have either K-12 or college level OER hubs, as well as different organizations that have hubs on the site. One example of an organization is CAST, the nonprofit that pioneered universal design for learning. Within a hub, you can also have groups. So there's a couple examples on the screen of a few of the groups that are on Oregon Open Learning. So now let's head over to the hub so that I can give you a little tour. So here, this is our hub's homepage. And I mentioned it lives within the OER Commons. So if you want to go back to the broader site, you can always click this OER Commons up in the corner. And the menus up here at the top are for the global site of OER Commons. But again, starting here from our hub homepage, you can use this search box to search within our hub on OER Commons, and you can use these quick links to jump to different sections of our hub. You can also just scroll down the page to get to all of the same content. So we have our About section, which tells people a little bit about the site. And then we have our Curricular Resources section. These are all collections from nationally known content providers. And within each of these, you can find resources that are ready to use with students. If you scroll down a little further, you get to our Groups section. And here we have a number of groups with different categories that people can join and contribute to, or just search for resources within. And groups are really a working space within OER Commons. So resources here might be in varying stages of development. They might be something that somebody has put up and is trying out, but might still need some revision. We'll go ahead and go into one of the groups. We have the first one listed here, our Oregon OER Professional Learning. So that's a great place to start if you're new to OER or new to the hub. And here in the group, you see kind of the header information, and you have this button, Contribute to this group. If you have not joined the group yet, this would say Join. So then you would be able to click that and join the group. You can view everything even if you don't join, but joining allows you to contribute to the group. And then down below, you have a list of the resources that are in the group. And then in some groups, they're also organized into different folders to help you find what you're looking for. So I'll point out one resource here, our user guide for Oregon Open Learning. Again, this is a great place to start. Just has some helpful content to help you get to know our hub and OER. Now we'll have Susan tell us a little bit about how we know that the resources are quality.
Yeah, so that's one of the questions that we hear a lot. And to help answer that question, we have designed what we call our OER quality framework, which describes indicators of high quality OER. And the framework includes 3 different tools that can be used for different applications or entry points. So that first tool, the submission guidelines tool, is kind of like the first level tool, which focuses on elements of the resource that make it appropriate or not to include on OER Commons. And so one of the biggest considerations with that tool and that level of that entry point is how the resource is licensed. The next level is the curation and creation tool, which contains criteria that are relevant to things like standards alignment, learning and instructional supports, and balanced assessment. So we recommend that educators use that tool when they're adding resources to a group on the hub, with the understanding that this tool is really intended as a guide and not a gatekeeper. So if a resource doesn't meet one or more of the criteria, it can still be added to a group. We just want to keep in mind that a resource that only meets a few of the criteria will need significant revision in order to meet the high quality standard that is defined by the evaluation tool. And the evaluation tool will be used by trained teams to ensure that resources that are moved to collections on the hub have been thoroughly vetted. And then educators can also use that tool, of course, when they're evaluating a resource for use in the classroom. So when we think about the difference between groups and collections, it is important to emphasize that based on what we just talked about, like that, that groups are kind of that working space and collections are where we move resources once they've been vetted. So in the hub and on this slide, you'll notice that groups are indicated by those circular icons and collections are indicated by the rectangular icons. And like I just said, groups are the working spaces where people are actively collaborating to curate, remix, and adapt resources. And then once those resources have been vetted and they're ready to be broadly shared, they are then moved into a collection. And collections are the space on the hub where you can know that resources have been vetted. In the nationally known content provider collections that currently exist on the hub, the resources have been vetted by the authoring organization using their processes and rubrics. Eventually, we will have Oregon-specific collections where resources will be vetted by teams of Oregon educators using our OER quality framework.
OER Commons has search filters to help you find the resources that are most relevant to you. The search filters are available in multiple places within OER Commons, including on the homepage when you're searching the entire OER Commons, and also when you're searching inside a collection. In just a few moments, you'll have an opportunity to explore collections on Oregon Open Learning. So I want to take a look at how those search features work to help you get familiar with those. So I'm going to go into one of our collections that's on the hub, the Digital Public Library of America. So here, this collection has 150 resources. And as you're searching, these are the filters that you can use to help you narrow down what you're looking for. So for example, let's take a look at education level, and let's say that I'm looking for a high school resource. So I'll click high school and then see that that narrows us down. So now we only have high school resources in this list. And then there are also other search filters here. You can search by standard, by subject area, by material type, and language. Within these specific collections, there's only one provider for this collection, so that one wouldn't really be relevant to this, but would be in other places on the site. I'm also going to look at material type, and let's say that I'm looking for a unit of study, so I'll select that. And so this has narrowed us down to far fewer resources than we started with. But also, as you're using the filters and searching, you might decide that actually, I don't really need a unit of study. I'm looking for something else. So then you can use the little X up here. At the top, it shows you which filters you've applied. And if you use the X next to it, it will just remove that. So now we're back to the only filter is high school. So those will be something interesting to play around with and see how that helps your search when you are using collections in OER Commons.
So now that we have just filled your brains with some information, we want to give you time to play. So before we jump into this, if you haven't had a chance to rename yourself in Zoom, with the grade level band that you work with. Susan just posted those bands in the chat. If you can put that in there, the reason being is that we're going to have you in breakout rooms with people who are similar to you in terms of the age of students that they're working with. And so we want to make sure this conversation is powerful. If you're not sure how to do that, if you can just put in the chat your grade level, and then we'll be able to get you situated. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you an opportunity to collaboratively explore the hub. And in just a few minutes, like I said, we're going to put you into breakout rooms with 2 or 3 other people with the goal of kind of embarking on a choose your own adventure exploration. And so for this exploration, your groups will choose one of the collections on the hub. So like Vanessa just shared an example of one. There's a lot of different examples. So your group's going to take a couple of minutes and find one that sparks your fancy. And while there are many resources available that are not located in collections, as Susan explained, these collections are vetted by national educational organizations. And so we want to start with those just because we're thinking about that quality framework. So once your group has chosen the collection you'd like to explore, you're going to collaboratively identify 2 to 3 resources from that collection that you believe will support students in your classroom who are emergent bilingual. And these might not be resources that already have language support or even resources that were initially designed for English language development. Rather, they can be any resource that you feel could be useful in your classroom and provide opportunities for language development. You're then going to discuss the strengths of the resource, how you might use this in your classroom, and ways that you might adapt this resource to better support students who are emergent bilingual. And as we want to share that you leave today with a lot of resources that you can use in your classroom, we have a collaborative Google slide deck that I'm going to put in the chat for you. And this is going to ask that you put kind of your artifact on this Google Slides. That way, if you and your group found 3 resources and all the groups find the resources, you're going to end up with maybe 15 instead of just the 3 that you found. What you're going to notice is on that slide deck, and Vanessa, can we actually go to that slide deck just so we can do a quick screen share of what that looks like? So you're going to see that the first page is the directions. So that way you have the directions with you. When we invite you to a breakout room, go ahead and notice what breakout room number you're in, and then you're going to use that corresponding slide. So if you're in breakout room number 1, you're going to find the slide for breakout room number 1. And this is going to, again, serve as your artifact. That way, again, you have something that you're going to be able to use and then hopefully support the learning of everybody else in the session today. So we're just going to ask that you put the name of the collection in the top where that box says name of collection. And again, your group can choose any collection that you would like. Find your 2 to 3 resources and go ahead and link them here so that they're easy for others to find. And then again, noting the strengths, how you might use this in your classroom, and then how this might be adapted to better support students in your classroom who are emergent bilingual. So I think we're going to say, how long do you think do we say 12 minutes, 15 minutes?
Let's do 12 so that we have some time for whole group sharing when we get back.
Perfect. So we'll do 12 minutes in the breakout room. We're going to be kind of popping around to help as needed. And then as always, if we're not in your room, feel free to use that ask help button in Zoom so that we can pop in and help with any questions that you have.